So yeah, if you don't embed, everything works. But if you do embed, then it breaks. Get it? I mean, there's nothing that I forgot adding. I just don't know what it is about the embed function that messed up the file writing. Or do I? No, I don't think I do. But I mean, even the upstream version, after you use embed, it just crashes everything. So I guess I'll just do that and not worry about it. I feel like it doesn't have to, though. Wait, hold on. I don't want to do this. I want to see why it did that. Self.writing process.standardin.write is writing to a closed file. So there was a time when it played when it didn't open the file pipe. Normally, whenever you call play, it'll do that from begin animation. Want it? Play. File writer.begin animation. Yeah, this will open up the pipe. And when I called embed, the following self.play didn't work. Why would the following one not work? Here's a question. If I don't do anything after calling self.embed, will it still break? And the answer is yes. Wait, I actually don't know what broke that time. Did I just break it just now? Oh, writing to a file with self.embed never works. I have to remove this to make it work at all. But then afterwards you can continue and that's fine. Okay. So why does it never work with a file? When I call embed, it happens when I try to render here. Oh, this makes sense, I think. Render.render goes here, which goes here, which goes to FileWriter.write in 387. So this, oh, it's because it's rendering before it opened a movie pipe. So that makes sense. Been in this movie before. So I think all I have to do is just not do this if it's paused. So why don't I just here, I'll just put, I think this is, there aren't that many places that are good for global variables, but I think this is one of them. I just set config.embedded is true here, and then when you finish, just stop it. And then here, if this and not movie pipe sounds like a low rent Netflix. Nice. or YouTube. Yeah, that's true. Manim config has no attribute embedded. I would normally just add an attribute to our config. I can do it, I guess. I'll do it. But our config is a monster. I can't even find it. Here. Actually, this will break the tests. Because we have a bunch of tests that just test. Oh, actually it won't. I think it won't. So I just go down here. Show you the Manim config. This is it, if you are curious. It's so big, dude. I'm actually not gonna do it. I don't even know it well enough. I'd probably break something without knowing it, so. I think I can just pass a variable to. Actually, no. I'm just literally not gonna do this because our config is that complicated. I'd rather just raise an exception. It'll just get too complicated. Okay. So we test it up one more time. Great. Oh, their own config. It's not my config. And that config was a long story. First, it was inherited from Grant, and that config was terrible. It wasn't even a config object. It was just spread out throughout the library. There's just random variables. And then one of the people, Leo, compiled it all into that monster class, which at least put it all in one place, but it's still incredibly complicated. It's pretty extensive and hard to modify unless you know how it works. Exactly, yeah. Okay, so I should cover both of those cases. Now it just didn't do anything. Oh, it's because I wrote to movie. That's fine. So I'll say embed is skipped while writing to a movie. Should be to a file. So then if I don't do that, then it'll actually pause. And afterward it'll crash. Okay, fair enough. And that seems right too. Is there anything else I can take from this? No, neither of these will work. Although maybe I could move them over and comment them. I move this to the top. That I can copy the rest over. And then comment it. Try copying and pasting some of the lines. Oh. That's actually... There's something else that seems off about this. It says to try copying and pasting some of the lines here into the interactive shell, but I thought having self dot wouldn't work. Maybe that's not true. Alright, let's see. What was it called? Oh, you can use self. That's nice. Wow, that was bad. Cool. That's funny. We have a constant called degrees. Is anyone else hearing a metronome type sound? Is it doing like this? I mean, there is me typing. Unless you're talking about something else. A clock. Oh yeah, there is that. Yeah, there's music. I can never tell if it's loud enough. But yeah, there is music. I'm piloting music this time. I actually don't know if this should be in this change or... This is only a few lines. I think I can just add this on top. On top of this PR. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Let me just sneak that in there. Maybe no one will notice. Okay. I didn't expect that to be so short. I guess the next thing to work on would be interactivity. Well, that sounds like it might be pretty hard. And I don't know how it's done in the upstream version. For example, opening construct, animating methods. Does this have an interactive example? Interactive development here. Yeah, I did do the embed stuff. It was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. I hate that this is misspelled. Development. I have to get module example scenes. You have to get module example scenes. Weird. Did that make anything break? I guess not. I can exit. Okay, okay, okay. So then what I wanted to know is, can you interact with this while it's frozen in embed? And it looks like you can't, which makes sense. Finally. So the way they're using interaction here, I don't think it's quite right. Because, okay, so here's what I mean. If I pause, well, here's what I think. If I call self.embed in the middle of the surface example, so here, I don't think I'll be able to move the camera. Here, I can move the camera. But after it pauses, I can't move the camera anymore. And in fact, I don't know if it's possible to make the camera movable while... No, wait, it might be possible. But what would it take? Because the problem is Python, this is a single thread of Python, I think. And so the thread can't both refresh this and read input from the shell. So it's reading input from the shell, and this is blocking. Or keyboard shortcuts? Let's see. You have to write an empty scene. Manim GL. I know there's keyboard shortcut too, to move the camera. Okay. For now, I'm glad it works that way because that makes it easier to think about. Like, it makes sense to me that that would happen. So now, all I have to do is figure out how to make it interactive. Trying self.interact. Okay, so here I can. And here I still can. However, I forgot what the variables are called. Surface. Cure, escape. I'll do that after I do this. So now it's not listening for queue. Or is that closed back? Okay, so that makes sense to me too. Because in embed, it wasn't listening on the renderer, but it was listening on the command line. And then on interact, it wasn't listening on the command line, but it was listening on the renderer. So it's still using only a single thread. Doing both at the same time would probably be complicated. Probably. But I didn't know there was this interact function. Now I guess I should try to do that. Oh, I think I remember this. I don't... Before trying to do this, I think it's more important to figure out how to do interactivity normally. It's like in the upstream version, or the community version, you can never move the camera. Never. So let me try to find a way to do it. I think it involves the window. But I really don't understand any of this. Find initial position. I guess this kind of makes sense. There's some functions to switch between the two spaces. It's just like on mouse, whatever, do this. See what's on mouse drag. So it's a scene.on mouse drag. Okay, so for on mouse drag, the window has a reference to the scene and it calls scene.on mouse drag. Scene.on mouse drag calls self.mouse drag point. Okay, so it has a point which has the mouse's location. It sets this object. It does whatever this is. If propagate event is not none and propagate event is false, return. If propagate event is not none, which means there is a propagate event, and propagate event is false. Wait, what? Why doesn't it just say if not propagate event? Whatever, I don't care. And then it's gonna return. And I think this will usually return. I'll have to see what the event dispatcher is though. Manim.event handler. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. There should only be one event dispatcher. And the event dispatcher has these events. Add listener, this is misspelled. I'm gonna remove listener. You can dispatch these different events. There's a mouse motion event, mouse drag event, key press event. Self.press keys.add. Self.mouse drag point equals whatever. The amount of typos. Yeah, there's kind of a lot. I feel like listener isn't a typo. I feel like because it's everywhere. Maybe he just thought it was spelled this way. So it's keeping these, it's holding these different values of like the mouse point, the drag point, the pressed keys. And if event type equals event type.mouse drag event, then for each listener, it's gonna call a callback. Man, this is like rewriting JavaScript. Which part of this actually ends up moving the camera though? The camera must take like a mouse position or something in the when you render. Thought it was update frame, guess not. No, def render. This takes like, it's like update uniforms, refresh perspective uniforms. And this takes a camera rotation. On mouse drag. Okay. So then mouse drag point. So on mouse drag, we'll update the self.mouse drag point. Then maybe there's an event that links that to the camera. Why the camera frame? Like where did that listener come from? I feel like I need to put a breakpoint here. I need the Manim GL command. So it's doing this. It's not even triggering the breakpoint. Wait. I did the interact instead of embed. I don't think it'll make a difference. It's still not triggering the breakpoint. Okay. If I go to the window, this has to be firing, right? Maybe a breakpoint on mouse press. I don't want to add too many of them because it could get confusing when they break when I don't expect them to. That didn't do it either. Which means on mouse drag isn't even firing. Delegate event handling to scene. I do not understand this. On mouse motion, on mouse drag. So what I'm wondering is, okay, so what if I just comment these? Surely this should break something. And it does. Okay, so I think I'm gonna take your advice. Well, I'm almost gonna take your advice. I'm just gonna crash on all of these functions. To see which one actually gets called. Okay, so when you play, it calls update frame, which calls window swap buffers, calls window dispatch events, which calls self.dispatch pending events with an xlib. And this has its own event dispatcher. Okay. Which I guess that eventually calls on whatever. Interesting. Okay, so I think I can do that on the downstream version. I think this is like OpenGL window. OpenGL render window. Maybe I should just start, find initial position I don't need. I'm just gonna start with these two. So I don't think this has a pointer to the scene. Or does it? No, it doesn't. It could only have a pointer to the renderer, I think.